All of Tumblr has been kidnapped and is being held hostage by a 19th century book club.
In this case, it's Jonathan Harker's spice tolerance.
It's like giving one jalapeno potato chip to a medieval peasant.
Paprika isn't spicy, you're just British.
He just can't withstand it in his poor English Victorian body.
This is a tale about how an email from Jonathan Harker made thousands of people ask themselves possibly the most important question of our time. Do British people think paprika is spicy? And this Halloween, we'll try to answer it. In 2021, our good friend Jonathan Harker started emailing people about this weird work trip thing his boss sent him on. The poor Victorian lad had not been brought to life by some type of powerful Etsy witch. Instead, the emails were part of the newly launched Dracula Daily project.
It didn't really click until I started reading it with Dracula Daily that Dracula is a found manuscript. It is a book that is told through diary entries, transcripts of phonographs, clippings from newspapers, and there's one for roughly every day or so between May and November. So you can get like a little email in your inbox from your favorite characters in Dracula telling you what they were doing that day.
I believe Dracula Daily had been going for a year or so before Tumblr really locked into it, but 2022 was when everyone kind of found out about it.
All of Tumblr has been kidnapped and is being held hostage by a 19th century book club was the highlight of the year. I've looked forward to Dracula Daily season every year since.
Part of Dracula Daily's appeal was the fact that it made the classic very digestible.
Isn't it delightful that when you slow down and read a text and really engage with it piece by piece by piece, you get to sort of focus on these tiny little micro moments?
It made me think about every other book I've read as like binge watching it.
There's a part later on in the book where Dracula is trying to attack someone who has a lot of the main characters trying to protect them. And so instead he just like goes, well, I can't go in because there are any open doors or open windows. What if I just rocket launch this wolf through the window? I just thought it was so silly. For some reason, that exploded and became like my most viewed post. And then someone who has been drawing beautiful, lovely art for Dracula when it was Dracula Daily was getting really popular, just drew an image of this poor wolf getting just hurled by Dracula. That little post and that little drawing is in the margins of the Dracula Daily book.
But this deconstruction also had unintended consequences.
It sort of allows different things to bubble to the surface, and in this case, it's Jonathan Harker's spice tolerance.
And I was seeing all these posts on my dash about paprika, and I was like, I don't remember that. But then I went and checked, and yeah, there's paprika in the book.
It was my introduction to Dracula Daily, and what an excellent introduction it was.
Like, my girlfriend told me that Dracula Daily existed and started reading it out loud, and then I went on the internet and found out about the paprika stuff.
The very first entry of the book is one of the main characters, Jonathan Harker, trying what he calls in the book paprikahendl. I've since gone down rabbit holes, lots of discussions of, is it paprika churkas? Is it Transylvanian specifically? Is it more Viennese? Everyone definitely seems to agree that it is a type of chicken that has a lot of paprika in it.
He's a, young English man exploring this foreign land, and he's got his little journal food blog going on.
It was thirsty, it gave him queer dreams, he really had trouble sleeping that whole night, and the first thing he had in the morning for breakfast was more.
I think I like Jonathan Harker as a character more on a reread with these kind of like odd little fandom things in mind than perhaps I did when I read it as a teenager and took it very seriously.
He definitely seems like someone who's adventurous, who's like excited to go to this brand new country and try all these different foods and try all these different experiences and is willing to try it again.
He's saying things like, I must get the recipe for Mina, as if Mina, as like a brand new housewife back in England, is going to have access to paprika.
Some British guy thought paprika was spicy, and that kickstarted the discourse that has been making rounds for 4 whole years now.
I'm so impressed that it's still got traction. I think that's kind of incredible.
It is a very interesting topic, and a debate over semantics is definitely something that the Tumblr user base loves.
You're talking about your favorite media on Tumblr. They're gonna have very strong opinions.
Over the years, the Dracula Daily fandom developed a number of theories as to why Jonathan found paprikahendl thirsty. Theory 1. Jonathan Harker is too British to be able to handle spices, even paprika.
I think the first post I saw, it was that meme where a person is drowning and their hands sticking up out of the water, and it said something like, Jonathan trapped in Dracula's castle, and then the other hand comes down to high-five it, and the text on that was, paprika isn't spicy, you're just British.
Is it actually like a very hot, spicy, like, oh my gosh, I need, a hot one's number of milk? Or is he just so incredibly English in 1897, it's like giving one jalapeno potato chip to a medieval peasant, and he just can't withstand it in his poor English Victorian body?
While being the most obvious and honestly the most appealing in terms of shitposting, this theory is also the most surface level one.
It's just way too much fun to make fun of this poor English boy in saying like, oh, you had your first taste of something that, isn't just bland toast.
Let's dive a little deeper.
I read Bram Stoker's Dracula because it's the only Western classic that centers itself around Hungary, Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time. A lot of details were off, but the paprikahendl bit seemed correct, because I assumed he was thirsty because of the salt. Then I went on Tumblr, and to my shock, everyone thought he meant that it was spicy.
I definitely think it's more along the lines of spicy and salty, to the point where he's drinking an entire carafe of water.
As far as I could dig into it, you're kind of like the first person who was really pushing for it.
I just, by coincidence, really like to sort of investigate and make and record the food that is mentioned in books. I found a recipe online. I made it. I was like, wow, yeah, no, I'm thirsty. I'm really thirsty right now. It's not that it's spicy, it's that it's so salty. And so I made a little post being like, hey, I know we're all like dunking on the English, like, good job everyone, always commendable, but perhaps there is a different way to read the text. And I got dunked on a lot for it.
You're defending the English online. I mean, what do you expect?
I know. It's not a commendable place to be in. I don't like that was where I was put, but for Jonathan, I'll do it.
The next theory, however, goes deeper. The paprika we are used to is actually vastly different from the one that was used in 19th century cuisine.
There are two kinds of paprika, and the one that's most familiar, at least in the US, I don't know about in other countries, is sweet Hungarian paprika. But there's another one that's about as hot as cayenne pepper, and I think that's supposed to be the one that he ate. It doesn't specify.
It wasn't until the 1900s that sweet paprika, so to speak, came to exist. There were folks who could take the really spicy, hot flavor out of Hungarian paprika.
The paprika powder that was used by the lower class at the time was in fact spicy, because before the machines for de-seeding existed, only nobles could afford ground paprika that had the seeds and white veins removed before grinding.
When the paprika seeds came from America, the paprika was only just chili. And one guy in a labor, they made the sweet one as well.
A lot of the older recipes from the 1800s up to the 1890s only say paprika, and then you do that research and realize, oh, there wasn't another type of paprika available in the region.
Let me invoke a personal anecdote for this next theory. My entire life, I thought that I wasn't able to handle spicy food because, every dish that had pepper in it would fully put me out of commission for a whole day. And I thought, fair enough. My ancestors just had sour soups and beets and undiagnosed mental illness. So I reasoned that my family's spice tasting glands had simply atrophied. The twist? Just low-key allergic to black pepper, and I actually love spicy food. I found out by sticking my hand in a bag of red pepper that my friend's family brought him from Tunisia. And then I put that hand in my mouth just to see if it would maybe kill me. Yes, I was a little baked. Maybe a lot.
I get that with certain foods that aren't even supposed to be spicy. Apparently there's something where you can be allergic to the pollen, and some of the pollen gets onto the food, and it just causes this burning in your mouth.
I'm totally willing to go with the fact that he was allergic to it and just went like, oh, this is delicious. I think this is really good. And then dies a little bit and goes, oh, no, I'm better. I'm feeling a lot better now. Ooh, more.
The last theory moves away from the text and instead looks at the author.
We can gather from, the notebooks he left behind, the memorabilia that he left behind, that Stoker did do some form of research. He probably went to, but not enough! And he definitely didn't go to the primary sources.
I guess it's also possible that maybe Stoker hadn't tasted paprika and just assumed that since it's red and made of pepper, it would be hot.
Even if Stoker was familiar with paprika, he might have still thought it to be kinda the root of all evil. As Rhiannon Scharnhorst points out in the Journal of Dracula Studies, the fact that after drinking an entire carafe of water, this thirst is not quenched, and that Harker readily blames the paprika for it, is in keeping with how spices like paprika were viewed during Stoker's time. In The Diseases of the Nervous System, a textbook for physicians and students, published in 1893, paprika is blamed for illnesses such as epilepsy, due to its potential effects on the female, in this case, nervous system. Harker sees the effects of the ingestion of the food as a serious potential cause for the disturbance in his dreams. Okay, quick rundown. Paprikahendl is actually the German language name for the dish, also known as paprikahendl, paprikahendl, or Hühnchenpaprikás. Known in Hungary as paprikas csirke or csirke paprikás, it has existed for at least 200 years when it hit what is now Austria and South Germany in the late 19th century. The oldest known written recipe by István Cifrai, published in his Hungarian National Cookbook in 1830, is actually up on Hungarian Wikipedia, so I just straight up stole that. Also, you can easily find the book if you just Google the name. And then I adjusted the ingredient measurements based on other publicly available recipes. And then I put on a white shirt and I started yelling at everyone in the kitchen, the bear style, to really get into my chef alter ego, to really tap into that cooking part of myself. So now, let me just...
This is a queer ingredient I don't understand. Therefore, it is a call. A man named Jonathan ate a spice.
There still remains an unsolved mystery, namely why the Great Paprika Discourse is still this hot, pun intended, 4 years in, and what awaits us in the future.
There are people who treat May 3rd like a holiday, where it's like Dracula's back. Time to make paprika, and there's a lot of people who like to make it and then they're eating it and talking about it.
I think it'll probably continue.
If it doesn't, I will intervene. I will dig this meme up from its grave soil with my own bare hands.
I don't think it's going to fall off at all, actually. I think it's actually become a very important and almost essential part of the co-reading of Dracula.
Maybe we'll have a few more years of this and it will die out and then someone will resurrect it in 10 or 20 years on whatever platform we've got then.
So why do we keep coming back to this relatively unimportant moment?
There's something so delightful and endearing about the fact that we keep going back to the paprika thing. And I think part of that is it's reassuring. Whether we're thinking of it as like a time loop or whatever metatextual context we're giving it this time, what the Paprika Discourse gives us in the end is a small, light-hearted window where we can make memes and make jokes and dunk on the English before the true horror of the book sets in.
It's just a fun little thing.
I think we put kind of these old texts on a pedestal and sort of proclaim that they're very difficult to interpret and they're very difficult to engage with. And I think it's delightful that people aren't taking it too seriously. And it's at the same time, I think, allowing people to engage very deeply and meaningfully with the text. I sat down and drew about 100 little drawings of Dracula. Like, I've drawn about 100 comics and I just haven't put them all on the internet, which is kind of spurred by engaging with the text, which gives you something to sort of bounce off, and then also engaging with just people's enthusiasm.
I'm currently running a blog that's working to make the abridged version of the text from 1901 available to everyone for free. The abridged version that I'm working on entirely cuts out Jonathan tasting paprika for the first time. But really weirdly, it keeps in the part the next morning where he's having weird dreams and attributes it to the paprika.
As David J. Scull writes, in the final analysis, the most frightening thing about Dracula is the strong probability that it meant far less to Bram Stoker than it has come to mean to us. Maybe the same goes for paprikahendl. And maybe that's okay. This video is brought to you by my Patreon. My Patreon. Give me money, and I will give you something to look at.